Have you ever shared something personal, only to regret it later? Could it be that as we grow older, the things we reveal so casually may carry consequences we never intended? And what if the real wisdom after 70 isn't only about knowing what to say, but learning the power of what not to say? As the years pass, the value of privacy becomes clearer. With age comes a deeper kind of wisdom, an understanding shaped not just by what we've lived through, but by the lessons hidden in silence. After 70, the things we choose to share can sometimes carry unexpected outcomes. What feels like an innocent conversation can easily transform into stress, misunderstanding, or even unwanted vulnerability. In this video, we'll explore 9 important things you should never share with anyone after 70. Not because you have something to hide, but because your peace of mind, your privacy, and your personal safety matter more than ever. These aren't secrets rooted in shame. Instead, they are boundaries born from experience. Gentle reminders designed to help you avoid unnecessary emotional strain, safeguard your legacy, and preserve your dignity in this important stage of life. Whether you've always been an open book or you've naturally been more reserved, you'll likely discover that these 9 things are worth holding a little closer. Because sometimes what you don't say can be just as powerful as what you do. And choosing wisely what to share doesn't create distance, it reveals wisdom. Stay with me until the very end, because by the time we reach the final point, you may find yourself looking at everyday conversations in a whole new way, and perhaps even drawing boundaries you didn't realize you needed. Let's begin. Number 1. Your detailed financial status. One of the most important things to safeguard after 70 is your financial information. And this isn't just about protecting it from strangers. It also means being mindful with well-meaning friends or even family members. Talking openly about how much you have in savings, the size of your pension, or the value of your home may seem harmless, especially in a casual conversation. But once that information is out, it cannot be taken back. There's a subtle but very real shift that happens when others know exactly what you have. Expectations begin to change. Boundaries start to blur. You may suddenly find yourself being asked for financial help more often, or pressured into opportunities that benefit others far more than they benefit you. Even loved ones with the best intentions may start to assume access to things you never actually promised, simply because they know what you've got. Beyond that, oversharing financial details can open the door to manipulation. Scams targeting seniors are increasing every year, and the more details someone has about your income, assets, or lifestyle, the easier it becomes for them to tailor their approach. Sometimes the real threat doesn't come from outside. It can come from within your own circle. This doesn't mean you need to live in secrecy. It means you should be discerning. Share your financial details only with those who truly need to know. A trusted financial advisor, your spouse or partner, and perhaps one legally designated family member or executor. But casual acquaintances, distant relatives, or overly curious neighbors do not need access to that private part of your life. People who age wisely often treat money conversations the same way they treat medical records. Not because they are ashamed, but because they understand the risks of giving away too much information. Setting this boundary doesn't make you unfriendly, it makes you protected. It ensures that your financial decisions remain yours, and that your peace of mind stays intact. Number 2, your personal medical history in casual settings. By a certain age, health naturally becomes a part of everyday life. Doctor's appointments, new prescriptions, aches, and the small but persistent changes in your body become familiar topics. And often, they slip into conversation without much thought. But after 70, it's worth pausing before diving into the details of your medical history, especially in casual or non-intimate settings. This isn't because your story isn't important. It is. But how it's received can influence how others begin to see you and how they choose to treat you. When you openly share every diagnosis, every surgery, or every ongoing concern, there's a subtle risk that others start defining you only by those health struggles. You may notice people treating you with unnecessary caution, offering pity instead of respect, or quietly making assumptions about what you can or cannot do. And once you've been placed in that category of being fragile or in decline, it can be surprisingly hard to step out of it. There's also the emotional cost to consider. Constantly retelling your health journey can keep you tethered to worry, fear, and even an identity centered around illness rather than vitality. When those details are shared with people who aren't close to you, it can also invite uncomfortable comments, unsolicited advice, or judgments you never asked for. You might hear things like, "Should you really be traveling at your age?" Or, "Maybe you shouldn't be living alone anymore." And often, these remarks come from people who don't know your full story, yet still feel entitled to pass judgment. That's why it's wiser to share selectively. Reserve the details for trusted loved ones, healthcare professionals, or friends walking a similar path who can offer true support and understanding. With others, you can keep it simple. A phrase like, "I'm managing a few things, but I'm doing all right," is often more than enough. It protects your dignity, maintains your privacy, and keeps the focus on who you are, not just what you've been through. You're not hiding, you're preserving your autonomy. People who age with grace often choose their words with intention. They know when to open up and when to keep certain truths tucked away, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. Because not every detail of your life needs to be placed on display. Protecting your narrative is part of protecting your strength. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights meaningful, please comment the number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss upcoming videos. Your support helps us continue creating content designed to inform, guide, and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Number 3. Your private regrets or past mistakes. Every person carries chapters of their life they'd prefer not to read out loud. But after 70, there's an even deeper layer to what we choose to revisit, and more importantly, what we decide to reveal. Regret has a strange way of clinging to us, and when shared in the wrong setting, it can cause more harm than healing. Yes, honesty and vulnerability have their place, but constantly recounting your past mistakes can quietly drain you, especially when those stories are handed over to people who haven't truly earned your trust. Speaking openly about regrets, the choices you didn't make, the opportunities you missed, or the people you may have hurt, means opening one of the most tender places within yourself. And not everyone deserves access to that vulnerable space. And if the person you confide in responds with judgment, indifference, or even casual dismissal, the result can be deeply discouraging. Instead of feeling lighter, what was meant to free you becomes another burden to carry. You may notice that when you reveal these private regrets to someone who doesn't handle them with care, it alters how they see you. Suddenly, you are no longer the whole of who you are. You're reduced to that single story. They may begin to treat you differently, define you by one mistake, or cross boundaries with advice, opinions, and assumptions about your character today. But remember this: you are not your past. You are not the sum of wrong turns or missed opportunities. There is great wisdom in discerning which parts of your story are worth sharing and which are better kept for private reflection or trusted spaces. That may mean speaking with a therapist, a spiritual advisor, or a lifelong friend who truly knows your heart. These are the people who can hold your story without judgment and reflect it back to you with compassion. With others, you don't need to open every chapter. Sometimes it's enough to say, "There are things I've learned the hard way," and leave it there. The older we grow, the more we realize that peace doesn't come from constant confession. True peace comes from perspective. Recognizing that your past shaped you, but it doesn't control you. Your mistakes may explain part of your journey, but they do not define the whole of you. Those who move through their 70s and beyond with steady dignity tend to carry their past lightly. Not because they are hiding it, but because they've made peace with it. They understand that not every story is meant for every audience, and that restraint can be just as powerful as revelation. Number 4. Your will or inheritance plans with non-legal parties. There is something deeply personal and often deeply emotional about the decisions you make regarding what you choose to leave behind. After 70, many people begin to think more seriously about their will, their assets, and how they want their legacy to be passed on. These are weighty considerations, filled with both love and responsibility. But here's the truth. Unless someone is legally involved in managing that process, it is almost always wiser to keep those details private. When you begin sharing who will receive what, how much, or when, you may unintentionally open the door to conflict. Expectations start to form. Comparisons begin to take shape. People may wonder why one individual was chosen over another, or why certain things were divided in a particular way. Even in close families, even with the best of intentions, few topics stir up jealousy, entitlement, and misunderstanding as quickly as money and inheritance. The risks don't end there. Talking too freely about your estate plans before they are finalized, or without proper legal context, can create problems later. You may change your mind. You may revise your will. You may face circumstances you didn't anticipate when you first made those decisions. But when those details have already been spoken aloud, making changes can feel like betrayal to those who thought they were promised something, even if the adjustment is the right decision for you. That is why people who age with wisdom tend to keep these matters within a very small, trusted circle. They work directly with an attorney. They choose a reliable executor. They put their wishes in clear legal form, and they avoid casual conversations that could complicate things down the road. This isn't secrecy, it's stewardship. Being selective with this information doesn't mean you're hiding from your loved ones. It means you're protecting your peace and ensuring your legacy is managed with dignity and clarity. Sharing every detail with everyone may feel transparent in the moment, but in reality, it often invites unnecessary pressure, confusion, or even conflict. And when you choose clarity and legal protection over casual, open discussion, you safeguard not just your assets, but also your peace of mind and the long-term relationships within your family. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment the number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future videos. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content to inform, encourage, and inspire. Now, let's move forward. Number 5. Your emotional vulnerabilities with untrustworthy people. There is a unique kind of strength that comes with age, the strength to recognize when to open your heart and when to protect it. After 70, emotional clarity becomes more important than ever. You've lived long enough to know that not everyone who listens deserves to hear what's deepest inside you. While it is healthy to talk about your feelings, sharing emotional vulnerabilities with those who haven't truly earned your trust can leave you exposed in ways that may hurt more than they heal. Sometimes the person seems kind on the surface. They nod along. They ask thoughtful questions. They appear interested. But later, you discover that your private worries have been passed around like casual gossip. Or worse, your fears are twisted and used against you, manipulated to control your choices or to create a version of you that isn't fair or accurate. You might confide that you've been feeling lonely, or admit that you're afraid of losing your independence, or reveal that certain family tensions weigh heavily on your heart. But when those admissions fall into the wrong hands, they can easily be misunderstood, judged, or even weaponized. And if those tender words fall into the wrong hands, they can easily be misinterpreted or twisted into a story that paints you as unstable, incapable, or overly emotional. People who age gracefully learn to share their hearts with care. They don't stop being open. They simply become more discerning. Vulnerability isn't about telling everyone everything. It's about knowing who is safe, who is consistent, and who will hold your truth with gentleness and respect. It's perfectly okay to take your time, to test the waters, and to observe how someone responds to small disclosures before trusting them with deeper ones. Pay attention. If a person has already shown you that they gossip, twist your words, or use your feelings to gain control, you owe them nothing more. You don't need to explain or defend. Protecting your emotional boundaries is an act of wisdom, not distance. Your emotional well-being is not the business of people who haven't earned that level of trust. By the time you reach this stage of life, your heart has been through enough. It deserves safety, kindness, and maturity in return, and the less you share with those who haven't proven themselves, the more room you create for the people who truly matter, the ones who honor your words, value your honesty, and meet your openness with compassion. Number 6. Your relationship issues with your spouse or partner. Every relationship has its ups and downs, even the strongest ones. After decades together, disagreements, frustrations, and even old wounds are bound to surface from time to time. But once you reach your 70s, one of the wisest choices you can make is to protect your relationship by not airing those struggles with people who aren't directly involved or who can't offer genuine, meaningful help. It might feel relieving in the moment to vent about your spouse to a friend, a neighbor, or even a family member. Maybe you share that you've been feeling unheard or that a certain behavior keeps bothering you. At first, it seems harmless, just letting off steam. But what often happens next is this. The listener begins to form an opinion. And once that opinion takes root, it subtly changes how they see your partner. Even if things improve later between you and your spouse, what was once a private disagreement now becomes part of your public story. People begin to make assumptions about your marriage. They may offer unsolicited advice, or worse, they may start taking sides without ever knowing the full picture. And that outside interference can create even more strain on a relationship you've worked so hard to build and protect. There's another important layer to consider. Sharing relationship frustrations too freely can sometimes keep you trapped in them. When you vent without taking constructive action, the story hardens. You relive the conflict each time you repeat it, cementing the frustration in your mind instead of moving past it. By contrast, when you choose discretion, bringing those concerns directly to your partner, to a counselor, or to someone truly objective, you open the door for healing instead of judgment. Couples who last through decades of challenges often understand this balance. They keep certain things sacred, not secret, but sacred. They recognize that just because you're upset in a moment doesn't mean the entire world needs to know. And they understand that protecting the image of your partner, even during difficult seasons, is one of the deepest acts of long-term love. So yes, speak up when something feels wrong. Address the issues that matter. But choose carefully where and with whom you share those frustrations, because that choice can determine whether your relationship grows stronger or becomes weighed down by unnecessary outside opinions. But speak wisely. Protect your connection from unnecessary noise, and remember that some conversations, the most important ones, are meant to be had only with the person they truly concern. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights meaningful, please comment the number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Your support helps us continue creating content that informs, encourages, and inspires. Now, let's move forward. Number 7. Your views on your adult children's choices. As a parent, it's only natural to care deeply about your children, even when they are long grown and living their own lives. You still want the best for them. You want to protect them from hardship, and you may sometimes see choices they're making about parenting, relationships, finances, or lifestyle that don't sit right with you. But after 70, one of the most difficult yet valuable skills to master is knowing when to hold back. Offering your opinions about your adult children's lives, especially when shared with others, can backfire more quickly than you realize. What you intend as genuine concern may sound like criticism. What you believe is wisdom may instead be received as judgment. And when those opinions make their way back to your children, even through innocent channels, the impact can be damaging. It can create distance, resentment, or even long-term strain in the relationship. You may feel tempted to talk about it with a friend, a sibling, or another relative, simply to get it off your chest. But once spoken, those words can spread, and they rarely return in the same shape you first expressed them. You may find yourself saying things like, I just don't understand why Michael quit his job. Or, I wish Lisa would raise the kids differently. But once those words leave your lips, they take on a life of their own. They settle into someone else's mind, shaping how they see your child, sometimes permanently. And worse, if those words find their way back to your children, the trust you've worked so hard to build can suffer a serious blow. People who maintain strong, healthy relationships with their grown children understand the power of emotional restraint. They remind themselves that advice not asked for often feels like control. They wait for the invitation, and when it comes, they speak with care and gentleness. And above all, they keep private opinions exactly where they belong. Private. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you begin trusting. Trusting that your children are living their own lives, learning their own lessons, and growing in their own time. It means trusting that your quiet support, your consistent presence, and your respectful distance often speak louder than any opinion ever could. Your wisdom still matters, but when it is offered at the right time, in the right way, it lands with love instead of resistance. And in the long run, that respect builds a bond with your children that lasts far beyond any single disagreement. Number 8, your passwords, PINs, or important access information. After 70, protecting your digital and financial security becomes more crucial than ever. And just as important is knowing who can truly be trusted with that sensitive information. Sharing passwords, banking details, or key personal data, even with family members, should never be done casually. Not because you expect the people you love to misuse it, but because the risk grows every time that information is spread. It may seem convenient to hand your grandson your email password so he can quickly reset something for you, but that convenience can come with consequences you didn't anticipate. Or maybe you've told a neighbor where you keep your checkbook in case of an emergency. It may seem practical at the time, but once that information leaves your control, you can't predict where it might end up or how it could be used. Elder fraud is real, and it doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it's a family member who feels entitled. Other times, it's a friend who's fallen on hard times. And occasionally, it's simply a mistake. Someone casually passing along your details to another person, thinking they're helping, but in reality, exposing your privacy in ways you never intended. That's why the wisest approach is to keep your passwords, PINs, and sensitive data stored securely, and to share them only through clear, legally protected channels. This might mean naming a trusted power of attorney, setting up authorized access with your bank for a specific representative, or using a secure password manager where information can be retrieved safely if needed. These methods create structure, not secrecy, and that structure ensures your independence stays intact. People who manage to maintain their autonomy well into later life often have one important thing in common. They remain in control of their information. They don't hand over the keys to their personal world casually. Instead, they prepare, they document, and they plan ahead. By doing so, they avoid unnecessary risks while still ensuring that help will be available if and when it's truly needed. There's nothing paranoid about protecting your digital life. In fact, it's a vital part of protecting your dignity, your assets, and your independence. The fewer people who have access to your most sensitive records, the safer your future becomes. You're not being overly guarded, you're being wise, and that wisdom pays off in peace of mind and in the confidence that you are still firmly in charge of what's yours. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment the number 8 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Your support truly helps us continue creating meaningful content to inform and inspire. Now, let's move forward. Number 9, your plans to move, downsize, or change your living situation. In your 70s and beyond, decisions about where or how you live become some of the most personal choices you'll ever make. Perhaps you've thought about moving closer to family, downsizing to something easier to manage, or even transitioning into a retirement community. But here's where things can get complicated. Sharing those plans too early and with too many people can open the door to pressure long before you're ready. What begins as a simple thought, like, maybe I'll sell the house in a year or two, can quickly snowball into assumptions, unsolicited advice, or even unwanted involvement. Family members may start urging you to act faster than you'd like. Friends might begin treating you differently, as if you're already halfway gone. And in some cases, others may even begin making plans for you instead of with you. The truth is, the moment you speak aloud something as significant as a living change, people naturally start projecting their own fears, preferences, and desires onto your situation. You may hear comments like, "Don't move too far away," or "You'll regret selling," or even, "Why don't you just move in with us?" While often well-meaning, those voices can drown out your own and make it harder to hear what you truly want. All of these comments may be well-meaning, but that doesn't always make them helpful. And if you're still in the decision-making stage, all that noise can cloud your thinking and create tension you don't need. That's why so many people who age with clarity choose to process these choices privately first. They reflect quietly, they journal, they pray, they speak with one or two deeply trusted voices, not with the entire circle of friends or extended family. They take their time to gather information, weigh the options carefully, and move at a pace that feels right for them. And only when they are fully ready to act do they share their plans. Announcing something too soon, especially a decision as big as changing where you live, can easily turn a personal process into a public debate. And the more voices that join in, the more complicated and pressured the journey becomes. By holding your plans close until you feel confident and clear, you preserve the peace and agency that this stage of life deserves. You don't owe anyone early access to your process. When the right time comes, you'll let the right people in. And those who genuinely care about your well-being will respect your pace and your privacy as you shape the next chapter of your life. Final thoughts. As we wrap up this video, take a moment to reflect on what we've explored together. These 9 things may seem small when viewed individually, but when you look deeper, they all connect to one powerful idea: protecting your peace. After 70, your time, your energy, and your emotional safety are more valuable than ever. And knowing what not to share can be just as powerful as knowing exactly what to say. Which one of these stood out to you the most? Have you ever caught yourself oversharing something only to later realize it didn't sit right? Or perhaps you've learned, sometimes the hard way, that certain parts of your life are better kept sacred, shared only with those who've truly earned that trust. If so, you're not alone. Many of us, as we reach this stage of life, begin to realize that boundaries are not about building walls. They are about creating space where respect, peace, and clarity can thrive. Sharing is still beautiful, but now it becomes an act of wisdom, choosing carefully when to open up and with whom. That kind of discernment isn't cold or distant. In fact, it's one of the warmest and wisest gifts you can ever give yourself. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you've learned and how you plan to use it in your own life. Your thoughts matter to us, and every comment brings encouragement and inspiration to this community. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who may benefit. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content designed to inform, uplift, and inspire. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Wishing you good health, happiness, and peace always. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel.